Welcome to Open Court on NBA TV. This edition, Pressurized Tales of the NBA. I'm Ernie Johnson. Our blue ribbon panel of NBA analysts includes the big Aristotle, turned Shactus, turned big Shamrock, Shaquille O'Neal. Hall of Famer, Dream Teamer, scratch golfer, Charles Barkley.
What are you scratched?
One of the greatest clutch shooters in NBA history, boom baby, Reggie Miller.
Boom baby.
Five-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, and at 38, the youngest member of the panel, Chris Webber. In a 14-year career, he went to the playoffs 13 times. NBA champion, Steve Smith. Five-time NBA champion with the Bulls and the Spurs, and survivor of the mean streets of Pacific Palisades, California, Steve Kerr. And finally, two-time NBA champion whose Golden Gloves boxing career was cut short by
a right hand.
Fear. Kenny the Jet Smith. In this segment, we're going to ask the fellas about something they all know very well. Pressure.
Yeah, watch out, C-Web. Box out, Robert Ory.
Smith makes his move. Leans in. Let's go.
What is Dennis Scott doing, running with his head down?
Be ready. Be ready.
Shot. And he hits it. It's a three-pointer. Reggie Miller.
The best shooter ever played a game ever in history.
Bryant. To shot.
That right there.
We are talking about pressurized games and the most pressure you've faced and what those situations are like. Steve Kerr, how do you define a pressurized situation, and what sets those games apart from others that you play?
Well, it has to be playoffs. I mean, regular season games are, there can be pressure, but there's nothing like the playoffs. And to me, there's nothing like Game 7. And, you know, I played in a couple of Game 7s, one against the Pacers in the 98 Eastern Conference Finals.
Thanks for bringing that up.
I thought I would bring it up right away just to get us into the show, Reg. But no, that was the most pressure I've ever felt, that game, because it was the end of the Bulls' run. We knew this was it. The series was unreal. The home team won every game. Reggie's, making game shots in Indianapolis. I mean, it was an unbelievable series. And that Game 7, you guys took a 13-point lead early. And that arena was quiet. We could feel it. We could feel the end of the dynasty right there.
You win the game 88-83. What do you remember about that?
Well, I know being up 6 with about 5 or 6 minutes left, there's a jump ball on the Bulls side of the court. It's between Rick Smits and Scottie Pippen. So we're assuming if we can get the tip, possibly go down and score, go up by 8, not that you're going to win the game, but that gives you a little bit of breathing room against a Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Well, Scottie Pippen wins the tip. Steve's in the game. The ball goes straight to him. He knocks down a 3, cuts it to 3, and it almost was like we excelled. We knew then that it was over. But if we could have gone up by 8, not to say that we would have won, but it would have been a little bit of cushion and breathing room.
How do you describe, is there one game that does stand out that says, yeah, that is the most pressure I ever felt? Or do all of those games kind of feel like, yeah, they were all pressure games and you can't differentiate between the degree of pressure, Kenny?
For me, once the game starts, it's a pressure release. It's always like the pre-game stuff the night before and up to it. Like you don't feel the pressure of the game while you're playing it, to me.
Even if a game is coming right down to you, if it's down to 10 seconds left in the game and it's a one possession, you say,
especially,
boy, this is a pressure moment.
Most of these guys have been rolling when those moments are happening. So they're looking forward to getting the basketball or getting it in that moment, and you don't really feel the pressure. Only before the game you get headaches, you can't sleep the night before, you're antsy, you can't keep any food down, you're not hungry. And then when the game starts, it's like a release, and you're like, finally here. But the most fun game like that for me, actually we lost. It was Game 7 against Seattle, where that was the one game where for a whole half, every shot meant you go up one or down one for a whole half, and including an overtime. Where I had never been in a game where every shot, the crowd would go crazy, and it was so big of a play. But when you're in the game, I don't know if you feel the pressure.
These two guys are right. There's nothing like a Game 7. Ain't nothing like it. And once the game starts, you're relieved because Steve had a great point, Game 7, but Kenneth's point, the stuff in between Game 6 and Game 7, you ain't sleeping. You're not scared, but you're nervous. You can't wait for the game. You're like, man, can we play tomorrow? But that's like the longest 48-hour period in between Game 6 and Game 7. But you're so relieved when the ball is tipped off, because then you can just think about basketball. But the days in between in 6 and 7, it is the longest day in the world.
It's the not knowing.
Yeah.
That's what it was for me, because you never knew when especially in playoff basketball, whether it's Game 1 or Game 7, you never know what's going to happen. Either you're going to take control of the series in Game 1, or if it comes down to a Game 7, either on the road or at home, it's the not knowing. It's listening to all the pundits on TV and reading the newspapers and, walking the streets and listening to people. It's the not knowing.
Can you relate, Shaq?
There's many different types of pressures. There's the nervous pressure, there's the criticism pressure, and there's the performance pressure. I can remember one time playing against Portland, and we were up 3-1. And then they came back and tied it. So now we had to go to the Game 7. That was really the only time I faced pressure. And then, of course, they choked at the end. And
Shaq, really, I was hoping you were going to go there, because when you talk about pressure situations and you talk about being able to see the finish line right there, and here you are, Smitty,
there's no choke.
You're up 15 in the fourth quarter.
We're up 15 in the fourth quarter, but when it comes down to it, and Shaq knows, 32 seconds left. I drive the basketball.
how many seconds left?
32 seconds. I still remember.
You sure about that?
Kenny, I'm fouled. Steve, I'm fouled. And no call is, no foul is called. They were up 3-1. I think if we win that game, Shaq, we break up that dynasty of the Lakers.
I agree, because, at that time, that was our, first championship. But before that, we always got swept. So, in the timeout, we went to the timeout, and Phil Jackson said, "This how you want to go out? All right, I'll see you next summer." And he kind of relieved the pressure when he said that, because he made us change our thought process at the time.
Kenny talks about the pressure being between games and that kind of thing. Were you feeling pressure going into the fourth quarter at that time? Though you talk about what Phil said, but do you feel pressure right there and say, "Look, this is, we're about to go down here in our gym to these guys"?
Going into the game, of course, you're hyped, you're happy, we're at home. But in the fourth quarter, when you're down 15, you start to, not again. I'm about to get killed this summer again. Shaq doing this, Shaq, the Shaq and Kobe beat, here again. And then, Phil did what he did, and then we came back, and then, of course, they choked. Like I said earlier, we were able to win the game.
I agree with everybody. It's no pressure like playoffs. But one asterisk is, I was in Washington, and we have to win one game to make it to the playoffs. And in Washington, we hadn't been to the playoffs, I don't know, since Wes Unseld had played. And so, being that we were young, and I came from another team that had won, and it was a bunch of young guys in an older league, and, we were going to get the Bulls next, which wasn't the best reward. But I remember, the whole, it seemed like all of D.C. wanting us to win that game, wanting to come out. And that was our first time to the playoffs, but that was a great game to get us into the playoffs, and we had to win. And usually, the pressure, I would feel it more in between games, like you said, when I think about the repercussions. So I think, man, I'm going home. Or while in Detroit, I lost in the Game 7 to LeBron, and I'm thinking, this may be my last time playing.
I knew every time my team lost, I said, well, it's going to be a long week or two around here, because the one negative thing about sports, the star always gets blamed. Nobody ever said, Dan Marlin never won a championship. They never say that. They said Charles Barkley never won a championship. I say, I was some other guys on my team. And you listen.
They didn't throw him under the bus.
No. But I'm just saying.
Great teammate.
No, I'm just saying. But Shaq phrased it correctly. It's a different type of pressure on everybody. I knew every time my team lost, it was going to be like, Charles didn't win a championship. They never say the other guys on the team, but that's just.
But you know what? That comes.
I know
that comes with it.
Because
you know what? I wanted that. I wanted.
Oh no, we all want it, but trust me, it does suck when it.
But you get the accolades as well, and I think the one thing that you always know is when you're battling that your team is with you. But I do remember a story when your team is not with you and they actually sometimes can put pressure on. Chucky Brown was at the free throw line. We're playing Phoenix, and we come back, and he has to make 2 free throws to kind of seal the game. And Clyde Drexler comes up to Chucky Brown, and he comes to the free throw line. You know, if you miss these, we lose the series, right?
Wow.
This is a true story.
I know you're going to make these.
So Chucky's at the free throw line, and I saw him, and I don't think he just said what he just said. So I went back, I said, Chuck, you got these, baby, don't worry about it. And this is like 7 years later, Chucky called me, he said, remember that time? He said, because I came back up. He said he didn't feel pressure until his teammate put the pressure on him. And
Did he hit the 2?
He knocked him down? Free throws, knocked him down.
Do you
choked again?
Since Game 7s are the epitome, and there's nothing quite like the pressure of a Game 7. Until you've gotten to one of those, when you do get there, does it reveal something about yourself or about teammates that you didn't know before when you get to that?
Ernie,
that level?
we call it hot potato. Sometimes that ball is hot. You know, some guys, they don't want to be the GOAT. So, you know, they'll make shots all year long, but then when you get in a big game, when somebody passes the ball, it's gone before there's the ball. We call it hot potato because some guys don't have that, like, you know what? I don't care about missing shots. I never worried about missing shots. I'm like Reggie. I wanted to be in a Game 7 because I always felt like it gave me a chance to be a hero. I always felt like that. You know, I said, yeah, I never worried. I said, after the game, I said, oh, I'm going to get killed. But before Game 7 and during Game 7, I said, I got a chance to be the hero here.
Yeah, I think it reveals teammates and players, and it shows too if you've been faking all year. Like the rah-rah guys, the practice guys. Let's run an extra. Let's do this. Okay, let's go to the game. Let's see how you're acting now, and you know, it reveals itself to everybody who
Well, I'll
you
tell
are.
you what. You know
really
what it
faking.
also reveals? Coaches.
That's true.
Because in huddles, a lot of times.
You see that hand? You ever see that
saw
hand?
that. I saw that.
You see
played
the
even
right
coaches.
I played with a coach. We call him a dribbler. Because every time he wrote a guy a number down, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everybody was dribbling. We're like, Coach, we don't even know who got the ball.
He was shaking so hard. Or they get in that timeout and say nothing. And the whole time. Oh, we ain't got to play yet.
It's Open Court on NBA TV, and it continues right after this.
But I asked Steve one time, I said, yo, man, you cannot not get technicals, man. Like, we were at Chapel Hill playing and something. I'm like, what? You cannot. He's like, yo, Kenny, if I don't say nothing, my head will explode. I said, well, we don't want your head to explode.
You got that.
2 seconds, 1 second. West throws it up. He makes it. West threw it up and makes it. Won't start until
I was watching that game on a Friday night. And then that's when they be able to tape the lady. The fans be almost on the floor.
Oh, right here. This is unbelievable right here. Crying right there.
Isaiah hurt my heart.
Here's your man, Bill Walton. Look how Kareem was.
Look at that. Don't jump.
Yeah, Kareem was open.
Wide open.
Comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the shot on Elo. Good! Doubles!
Everybody thinks that's true. They can serve it Jack.
Brad Sellers won't leave him alone. Like, no, let me leave it alone, man.
I'm like, oh, that's Craig Elo, man.
Foul. Offensive foul.
Push off. Push off.
Randy Brown, what was he doing?
Walk into the locker room. He knew it was
Stumbled. The ankle was killing me, Steve.
The art of the clutch shot is what we're talking about here on Open Court. Reggie, you can start us off right there. That was another clutch shot. You made a career out of clutch shots. What's the key?
I think Steve alluded to this the other day. You don't think, you just react. And the key is you've gone over these plays so many times in your head, and you just try to put yourself in the best position possible. In that particular play, I was so upset that Chicago had come back because I thought we had control of that game the whole way, and you know, Steve and Scotty and Steve were fantastic down the stretch, and I was so upset that they had taken the lead, and I knew what the play was. And I knew most of the times when the game is running down, the officials like to swallow their whistle, as they call it. They're not going to call a foul, especially an offensive foul. So I knew they were going to switch because Ron Harper was guarding me. And I knew I was going to come up, and I knew Michael was going to switch onto me. So I was going to just shove him out the way because they weren't going to call a foul.
You know what? This is great. I'm glad to finally hear this from you. You've never admitted that before.
What did I admit? I just shoved him out the way. It wasn't a foul.
Of course it was a foul. You shoved him out of the way.
What about when Michael pushed Brian Russell out the way? That wasn't no foul. No foul? Oh.
No, it's interesting because a lot of people say you pushed Michael Jordan. I was like, go in that locker room, because that's what all the media was asking me after the game. I was like, go ask Michael if I pushed off. Because to his point, do you think Ryan Russell?
No, he got shook. There's a difference.
No.
He got thrown.
That was more like a back.
Kenny, I know you were in Carolina.
No, that was a shake.
Oh, no.
Michael didn't get shook on your play. He got pushed.
Brian Russell got pushed.
He got lost in the pullback, and then he got guided after. I would say more guided. That was out and out.
Always the key to clutch shot, you just have to have confidence. Because, first of all, when you're a star of a team, the ball's coming to you every night. But you can't ever lose your confidence. Because you just got to let it go. You can't think about it. Because we're running a play for you, Chuck. We're running a play for you, Reggie. Okay, I got to make this play. And I don't care how many I miss. I knew if you play the next night, you got to get right back up there.
Visualization in sports is important in a lot of whatever you're playing. You hear it in golf a lot. You know, you're standing on the tee box and you're visualizing how this is going to go. When you draw up a play and the horn goes and you're walking on, are you visualizing this is, because you kind of made mention of it. I knew they're going to come off. I knew Michael's going to be there. Are you visualizing every step along the way and saying, I know exactly how this is going to break down? Or are you saying, I'm just going to be ready in case?
But you have to be ready because you don't know how the defense is going to play you.
But Reggie said he knew exactly what was going to happen.
You anticipate.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you assumed what could and could not go wrong. And that's what I always like to think of, a couple steps ahead, especially on plays like that. Well, what if they switch out? But if they stay, I got to do this. What is my counter? So you're always thinking, but look, I've always played the 3-2-1 game growing up. So I always prepared myself that way of being in the backyard.
3, 2, 1, shot. You know, the one thing that I always felt, being a guy who was supposed to take the shot, the guy who was supposed to wait and see if the other guy was going to take the shot, I've been on both kind of spectrum throughout my career. I always felt better when the coach drew the play for me. And it was like, okay, we're going to put it for you, and then we want you to make it. But when I had to wait, I didn't feel as comfortable shooting the shot because I wasn't sure what he was thinking when he was going to give it to me. Like when Steve, I think knowing that Michael said he looked for you, that made you say, okay, I have to be ready. But when they say, okay, we're going to open the floor up and run a 1-4 set and let Kenny go one-on-one, I felt better. If you say, okay, we're going to run a 1-4 set for someone else and you're going to stand in the corner and he wait, I didn't feel good taking those shots.
I thought Charles nailed it. He said you just can't care if you miss, and you have to, and it's a really hard thing to do to get yourself in that mindset because what happens if you miss? Well, they're going to write about it. The fans are going to talk about it, talk radio, all that stuff. These days there's even more, media outlets. So there's so much pressure, and somehow you have to kind of filter that out and say, you know what? I don't care if I miss. Reg, you probably missed how many game time or game-winning shots?
Yeah, I probably missed more than I've made.
Michael, remember Michael had that commercial, he talked about, I've missed 25 game-winning shots.
But
you have to have that
But that's what
mindset.
separates the guys, though. I never, as great a clutch player as Reggie was, he just sit there and said he missed more than he made. And I probably did the exact same thing, but I never, I don't even think about the misses. I just think about the makes. Because when you get a chance, you make everybody happy in that locker room, in your city, when you make a game-winning shot, you think about that more than you do the losses. The losses, when you miss a shot, you have to wake up the next day and say, okay, that's over with. Because it's going to happen. One thing about the NBA, you're playing 4 games a week. And if you're a great player or a very good player, the coach going to give you the ball most of the time.
And I think also to add, Reggie, the elements of before you get the basketball, like Reggie knowing, I think for me it was always which teammate was making the pass, which teammate was making the pick. For me, Grant Long, I knew the guy was going to have a pick. There's some guys that was going to not really set to pick, so I know I had to slow up. I think there's so much in taking that last shot. I think most great players, when they catch it, they're fine. I think everything is thinking about before you get to that shot. I know for me it was, how am I come off the screen? Am I going to run fast? Is this guy stronger than me? And can I get open? And what kind of shot I'm going to get off? Because a lot of times you're running and curling, so now you got to come make up a shot that's not normal, not natural.
And for me, Steve, like we said before the ball, I remember we played the Lakers, and you're saying who you want to set picks for you or do this. I knew I was going to take the last shot, and I'm thinking, if I get double teamed, who am I going to trust to shoot the ball? You know, because just as you have to take the shot, you know, it was only a couple people that, you know, we were wanting. So we ran the play in before the play and the timeout and everything. Made sure that, you know, we had the guy next to us that did it. And coach can drop a great play, but knowing the Lakers, knowing that they're going to have this, if they jump the play, who's going to be ready to do that? And so a lot of times, yeah, I'm going to take the last second shot, but in my mind, too, if I'm getting double teamed because of these guys, I need to know who's on the floor.
So who wouldn't you pass the ball?
No, I gave the ball to Mike Bibby. I made sure I told him that he has to have a move. I tried to fake and drive to the hole, and they wouldn't know that, and, you know, wanted to make sure he was there.
Sometimes it's not a clutch jumper that tells the tale. Sometimes it's at the free throw line. Shaq, how much pressure did you feel at the free throw line when you knew they were going to send you to the line?
Not a lot. First off, I would like to say that I've never been a clutch shooter in the league, but on Xbox, I'm deadly. You know, in being a fan and watching the game, I've always seen clutch shooters want the ball. I can remember an instance where Charles was playing the Spurs, and I don't know what play they called up, but I could see Charles get the ball and look up at the clock, and you could tell that he wanted it. And he wanted it, and he knew he was going to win the game. So he took a couple of dribbles, he stepped back, and he shot the jumper on David Robinson. And you could look in his eyes that he knew the shot was going to go, and he wanted it. So most clutch shooters that I've seen, Reggie, Steve, all the guys on this panel, except myself, they wanted the ball.
You know what?
Well, I think, I'm sorry to cut him off because there's a difference. There's
Why'd you do it
clutch
then?
plays. No, there's clutch.
You hate to cut him off, but why'd you do it?
Clutch plays, and not just clutch shots.
Right, because knowing when guys are taking a shot to get the tap dunk, to get the alley-oop dunk, things that you've done, those are clutch moments that you say, I'm going to be involved in. So it's all the same mindset. I'm going to be involved in this moment.
You know what? And here's the thing, too, and I want to close with this with you, Charles. Pat Riley, I remember he told me once, you know, he said, in basketball, in playoff basketball, there are two things. There's winning and there's misery. And you hit the shot over David Robinson. John Stockton hit the shot over you.
Yeah.
And so you were right there on both ends of that thing. How do you describe the difference in the emotions of having a guy do it to you and you putting your team over the top?
It's a great feeling for everybody when you hit it. You know, we talked a little bit about Game 7. The one thing that people don't realize, like, when you lose at the end of the season, it's such a finality, such a like, wow, our season's over. Every season that you don't win a championship is depressing. And the deeper you go in the playoffs,
Hurts more.
It hurts more.
Hurts more.
I mean, it hurts more.
But did you ever, Reg, did you ever like go to sleep and wake up hoping that it was a dream that you lost?
I still think that to this day. There's so many games I think about. You know, Game 7 versus the Knicks in '94. Game 7 against
I used to go to sleep
in
thinking.
'95.
Don't even try that.
You think about those things because it's
Our
the chances
series?
you get.
No way.
But it was Game 7. You think about those things.
Right.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Right.
If I would.
That night, I used to go to sleep. I said, maybe if I go to sleep and I wake up, it might not really happen yet. You wake up and be like, no practice.
But see, I think the hardest thing after those games is trying to get to sleep.
Yeah.
Because you sit there, man, and you can't watch TV because everybody's talking about the game is over.
And everyone's talking about you.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're talking about you.
Tougher to sleep before that big game or after that big game if you lose it?
For me, before.
All right, always. All right. Much more to come. It's Open Court. It's NBA TV.
And I tell people, I said, Reggie Miller's the best shooter I ever seen. Because when me and Reggie played on the Dream Team together, when Reggie got locked out the hotel. So I gotta tell y'all, I gotta tell you this story.
Bird has it.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. see?
What a game.
One of the best highlights ever.
No, yeah, see? They didn't push. That's not a push.
Albert King. Barkley for three. Oh!
Like you said. Yeah, like you said. You go off the glass, it don't count. Who's that, hot play right there?
Here comes the bow. Here comes the bow.
Sam Mitchell.
Like the movie TIE Fighter? You ready, Steve? You ready, Steve?
So if it comes right down to it, who do you want taking the last shot? If you can just draw it up right now and you say, okay, I got one guy who can take the last shot for my team, that guy is going to be...
It's between Craig Elo and Michael Jordan. I'm gonna go with MJ, I think.
What makes him the guy, or what makes anybody the guy you want with the ball in his hands in the last couple of seconds?
The mentality that we've talked about of, wanting the ball and not caring if you miss and all that. But I think for the very last second shot, you really have to get the ball to a guy who can create a shot out of nothing, I think, because the coach can draw up the greatest play ever, but defenses are good, defenders are great athletes. A lot of times that shot isn't there, and that's why if you have a guy like Michael who can create space, or Bird who can give you that little shove and then shoot from behind his ear, and I mean those guys are the ones who can do it under duress, and that's the key. Sometimes it's not the guy, the Michael Jordan that gets to take that shot. Sometimes it's a guy who, like Derek Fisher, when they're in San Antonio, and Derek Fisher hits that shot, Shaq. Take me back to that night.
Well, before the play, Tim Duncan hit an incredible shot because I fouled him. I was in his face, I pushed him, and he threw it off the glass and it went in. So Phil had drilled the play for Kobe because, Kobe is, phenomenal when it comes to, last second shots. But like he said, the defense knew Kobe was getting the ball, so they doubled off Fish. He threw it to Fish, .04. He threw it up and they went in. And before the ref could say something, I grabbed everybody. I was like, let's go, let's go. But I would have to go with Jerry West, Mr. Clutch, because he was a great shooter. He always wanted that pressure, and from all the highlights I've seen, he's hit more than he's missed.
I'm a little biased, but I'm gonna go with Reggie Miller for the simple reason. Think about this. You go back and look at my era. Michael was the greatest player. Everybody knows that. But I think it's fair to say, we look at all these highlights. I think there's more Reggie Miller highlights than any other player. I mean, clearly, there's been plenty of great players, don't get me wrong. But if you go back and look like when you've seen highlights, the guys made incredible shots down the stretch. And you're like, wow. Reggie Miller is at the top of most lists. I mean, going back, that years when they were playing the Knicks every year, scoring 24 points in a quarter, 8 points in a couple seconds. You're like, come on, man, you kidding me? I mean, those some of the greatest highlights. So, and I tell people, I said, Reggie Miller's the best shooter I've ever seen. Because when me and Reggie played on the Dream Team together, when Reggie got locked out the hotel. So I gotta tell y'all, I gotta tell you this story.
Charles kind of fits seamlessly right now.
This is a great story. So they were giving us a hard time about staying at the Dream Team. They're not even part of the Olympic movement. They're staying at a 4-star hotel. Reggie pipes up in the news conference, trust me, it's not a 4-star hotel. So we go play a game that night. We get back to the room. The hotel has glued his door. He can't get in his room. It was hilarious. Somebody at the hotel that got pissed, they had filled his keyhole up with glue. He couldn't get his room for like 3 hours. It was great.
Where'd you sleep that night, Reg?
Hey.
So if he's going to pick you as the guy to take the last second shot, and even today, when you see end of game scenarios picked apart, maybe it's a LeBron James, and LeBron will take the shot, or LeBron will dish to somebody. Say, well, hockey, if you're the star, you've got to take that last shot. How many times do you think you passed up the last shot because somebody was open?
Maybe only a couple times, because I want the success. It's 50-50, and that's how I always broke it down in my head. Either you're going to be the hero or the GOAT, one of the two. So a lot of times, even if it was a tough shot, I was going to take the shot.
So you feel it's your obligation as
I really do.
as the guy on that team?
As the captain, as the leader, as the guy that's, you know, walking through the brick wall first, yeah, I think it's your obligation to take the shot.
You know, what's crazy in my era, I've got a chance to play Michael, who knocked down the shots. All the guys we're talking about, then Kobe, and then Reggie. These are all the two guards. So those are the three guys that I would pick, because these are all the three guys that I got a chance to play with, that I knew wanted it and had a history of making these shots. And it's just unbelievable at that position how many guys would get the basketball, the two-guard position, want the basketball, and also could get a shot off in all different type of styles. Obviously, Reggie didn't handle like a Kobe and Michael, but his movement without the basketball, those three guys, you know, I put those three guys, you know, right 1, 2, and 3 of getting that last shot.
Guys I play with, I would have to put 2, and, you know, I trust you more for your practice effort, too. So if you're a guy that can shoot and you work, and I know your work ethic and you want it, and Chris Mullin was the first guy that ever took me to an NBA workout, and I didn't understand it. He shot in the morning, he worked out, and then we practiced, and then he shot, and then we got in the hot tub, and that guy, he practiced enough where I would give him the ball blindly. And then, you know, Mike, those two guys, and playing with them, I played with a lot of great shooters, but I got to practice with them, and we would play 3-2-1 games, and we would do, you know, we had a connection, and I trusted their work ethic. You know, just like you say, Reggie, you always hear, I think you said it last year when we were talking about, you know, all the great shooters, and you were like, listen, to be a great shooter, you have to practice. You have to shoot. And so those guys I've seen shoot 1,000 shots, definitely would get them the ball first.
I would put Reggie out there, and, you know, I think Michael kind of goes in a different class, even when you talk these kind of talks, like who would be the guest, because we know that he's pretty much the greatest of our time. But there's a bunch of guys that would fit in that category that they don't get talked about all the time. Nick Van Exel was one of those guys who took big shots down the stretch and was consistently, when he was from Dallas to the Lakers, always would take big shots. You know, Vernon Maxwell was another guy. Big shot Bob.
Don't say his name.
Big shot Bob. You know, it's
I thought about it. I was not going to say his name.
You know, guys,
I was not going to do it.
Chauncey Billups, you know, guys like that who may not be the guy who you figure that could create their own shot, but somehow, some way, when the game's on the line, the ball would end up in their hands, and that's not an accident.
Yeah, isn't it? It's amazing, isn't it, sometimes, Shaq, that, or do you find it that way when you say, how does the ball always wind up right there, whether it's the Vlade tap out to big shot Bob, and it's always in his hands, always with the horn going off. It's amazing.
Rebound, O'Neal, coming up short. Ori for the win.
If it wasn't for Big Shot Bob, I probably would only have 2. You know, he had some incredible shots. Another guy you forgot to put on that list, Glenn Rice.
Glenn Rice?
Yeah. Glenn Rice. So, you know, but, you know, the main thing is you have to want the ball, and you just have to let it go. I mean, I've never been a shooter, but like I said earlier on Xbox, I'm an animal.
We probably didn't mention Larry Bird enough either. I know his name was brought up a couple times, but I mean, in his prime, and we saw one of the highlights against the Hawks. I mean, that guy was ridiculous at the end of games.
You know what? I thought we were talking about guys we played with. Of course, it's Jordan Bird and this guy.
Yeah.
I just had to make sure I got that straight. I was on the
But I'm telling you what, you're talking about current players in today's game. I like Carmelo Anthony with you know, his hands on the ball. I like Dwayne Wade. I think he's an unbelievable finisher in today's game.
Can you be a good clutch shooter without being a good free throw shooter? Meaning, like, you know, does that guy think at the end, 3, 2, 1, you know, because you could hit a guy with a pump fake and just say, okay, I'm going to the line and get 3 free throws. So that defender had to check you. They couldn't go for your pump fakes.
Well, how bad are they? A 60-70% free throw shooter?
Well, I don't think you can, Tris.
Yeah,
I think because you can't be fearful to go to the line and making those moves, because a lot of those times the move isn't the shot, and it is the foul, and you have to go through, and it never gets to be a clutch shot. And you have to go down and knock down those free throws.
But, of course, the easiest way to remedy all that is just to be awesome on the Xbox. We will come back. We'll have much more on Open Court on NBA TV.
You said something funny to me, and it's before the game, and we at the circle, and I laugh, and I'm like, hold on. Yeah, no, hold on, ain't nothing funny right now.
And I was like, ding, 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 got him. Rolled him in.
We're talking about friends and enemies in this segment of Open Court. How did you draw the line between being friends? How much hanging out do you do when you're going up against each other? How much of that do you show on the floor before a game? The fraternization, all that stuff. It's talked about in a lot of sports. A lot of fans maybe not want to see somebody hugging here or doing all this and buddying up. Was that difficult to get around, Charles?
No, because first of all, you have to understand, Ernie, all the guys around your age, you played against them your entire life, so y'all are friends. I mean, you know, me and Michael, Karl Malone, all those guys from college to every year in the pro, like you see guys all the time, but when you play against each other, you want to kick each other butts so you can have bragging rights. I mean, listen, we gonna be friends.
I think when I didn't really know anybody else on another team, like really know them. I think now guys really know each other. So I didn't know players until I retired. And I was like, oh man, Alonzo Mourning's a real nice dude. Like I didn't really know him. And that fraternization that you see now in today's game is a little bit more. Charles, because he's mentioning guys he played in the Dream Team with. But before he was teammates with these guys, I can't imagine that he knew them.
Well, listen, we became friends on the Dream Team. The only time
But before that.
The only time we spent time together was at the All-Star game.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you know, when you get to know those guys, like I made the All-Star team 11 years in a row, so I saw Michael, Scotty, Karl.
But before then, it wasn't a hug fest.
Oh, no, but we didn't hug before the game either. Like, I shook their hand. Like, I ain't nice to my mama before the game. That's just the way I am. You know, I don't want to be friends. Like, I'd shake all you guys' hands before the game, and we do the little obligatory, but I don't talk to you or anything like that. Now, if I go to the All-Star game or we played on the Dream Team together, I might give you a little bit of love, but we ain't fraternizing. I hate that stuff I see today.
It was so bad that I get to see players now. KG, I never wanted to be cool with them because I love this game. So it was nothing for me and him to talk about. I'm playing against him in the West Coast, and I got to mess with him and Tim Duncan and all these guys. So for me, if I didn't play with you, I didn't want a relationship with you because I'm in Sac struggling. Like, you're not going to do nothing for me but maybe beat us or something like that. So for me, I never really wanted to get to know. Now, if I had a rookie like Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace with my rookies, you know, I love them, but if you were my rookie, it was never a day you could beat me. Do you know what I mean? And I never wanted to be in that position to someone else. Like, if I knew enough about you, oh, man, this cat right here, he ain't doing nothing but watching movies. Like, if I knew too much about you, I had no respect. And if I didn't have respect for you, I could own you, and I didn't want anybody to have that on me.
So are these friendships, or are they respect friendships? Look, I respect
I got respect for everyone here, and I love everyone here, obviously, because we're part of the Turner family. But you cannot tell me, to a man here, we did not want to trip, hit, hold, elbow to get one victory. We would do anything to get a win. What's interesting is, and I got so much love for Smitty, we were playing a playoff game. It was the best of 5. I had broken my orbital bone in my fracture, and I couldn't play the first 4 games. And Smitty was killing us, and he was killing Ricky Pierce, and Ricky Pierce was on his way out. And there was nothing I could do because I was just watching in street clothes, and I got a chance to play in Game 5 with the shades on. And me and Smitty went at it. I mean, you talk about some serious trash talking because I felt that he was ganging up on Ricky Pierce. But I've loved Smitty game all along. It didn't hinder our friendship, but I was going to let him know that he wasn't going to do that to one of my teammates. But after the game, it was all love. We pounded out, and that was it. But that just shows you in the middle of competition, we're going to do whatever it takes to win.
I think back in our day, you know, two guards, unless we grew up together, wasn't friends. I don't think you were friends with point guards. I don't think you were friends with. I was more
like if
friends with
somebody called me and said, "Hey, I'm in your neighborhood," I'd be like, "Hey, have fun."
Yes, there you go. That's fine. Now you get it.
There's a great story, but it's much too long to chronicle here. But we certainly get your point.
You know, Chris made an interesting point. Like, if you like the guy and you respect the guy, you had to sort of make yourself not like him. And, you know, the Ebonic word that comes to mind is frenemy. Like, I love, you know, C-Webb's game. You know, I was actually jealous of his game, a guy that could step up, face up, was allowed to dribble and do all that stuff. But when we played Sacramento, I hated him. I had to make myself hate him so we can go out there and battle. I mean,
his personality, I remember one game, you said something funny to me, and it's before the game, and we at the circle, and I laughed, and I'm like, hold on. Yeah. Hold on, ain't nothing funny right now. I remember, look at this girl. You know what I mean? And it's that type of, don't soften me up.
You know, I was like, ding, 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 got him. Welcome in.
I can tell you, I wanted to kill my trainer because of Reggie. Reggie go looking for his powder, and our trainer is looking for the powder.
Yeah.
I slapped the trainer's hand. Why are you trying to help him?
Yeah. So, you know, it's an interesting dynamic when you're an NBA player. If you move around a lot, and I played on 6 different teams, and I know, Reg, you only played for 1, and Chuck maybe a couple, 2 or 3, but when you get traded, all of a sudden you're playing with a guy who you hated the year before. Maybe you played in a playoff series, and just because of the competitiveness that these guys talked about, you butted heads, and you think, man, I don't like that guy. And now all of a sudden you get traded, and you realize he's a really good guy, you know. And I got traded to Portland for Steve Smith, and we had played them when I was with San Antonio in the playoffs, in the conference finals, I think it was. We had a battle, and I didn't like any of you guys. Then I get traded to Portland, and you know, Rasheed, Bonzi, all these guys I couldn't stand in the play. They were so much fun. I had a great time in the locker room with these guys. I mean, it just changes the dynamic entirely.
You got traded for a white guy?
What are you doing?
It was Derek Anderson and Steve.
Yeah, it was a black guy and a white
Go ahead.
It's Red Jawan, and we get Rasheed, and we all 3 are playing together, and they let Rasheed in the game. And Rasheed, you know how you have practices, scrimmages? He was getting technicals in our scrimmages. He got kicked out of our practice because he was going at the refs. So we give Rasheed a big talk, you know, for the game. You know, hey, man, you know, you're going to have a good image. You're going to play hard. He's like, yeah, I'm listening. He's like, I've really been wanting. I'm going to make Coach Smith. Everybody proud. They're going to watch it. First game, first play, he cussed the ref out, got a technical. And, you know, that's just the way it is, though.
That's Chris Webber, once upon a time traded for Tom Gugliotta. We'll be back with more.
That's right. I was mad at him.
I can give you the theme music if you like. Give me some drums, Reggie. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. You want some more of this Charles Barkley?
That's enough.
Have we all on this panel won state championships in high school?
I mean, nope.
You?
Yes.
You?
I lost in the state champ. I didn't play because I got.
You lost, you didn't play. Yes or no?
We've got much more open court. You can catch it on NBA TV and NBA.com. All right, I want to know, it doesn't have to be an NBA team. In fact, I'd prefer that it not be an NBA team because you don't root for NBA teams as NBA analysts. Who's your favorite team to root for outside of the NBA? This can be baseball, this can be football, this can be hockey. Who's your biggest fan of the? I already know.
Sue! You know who Sue is?
No.
And Dominican?
Thank you. You're the smartest football fan in here.
Which one is that?
Detroit Lions.
Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
University of Georgia.
Yeah,
Megatron?
definitely. We're going to win the Super Bowl this year. You heard it.
Megatron?
Yeah, Megatron.
I'm with him. I echo that.
It's been a difficult time being a Detroit Lions.
One playoff game since '54 we won.
First of all, y'all ain't in the playoffs.
That's why nobody heard
Y'all
of
ain't in the playoffs yet.
Barry Sanders. What?
Y'all ain't heard of that.
Who's your team?
Auburn, Alabama.
The dream team? That's your team.
No, you know what?
That's your team, right?
I got to tell you who my favorite.
Here we go.
He gonna jump all
Here we
over
go.
the place. No, growing up in Alabama, we don't have any professional team. My grandfather loves the Atlanta Braves. My grandfather he was one of the great people in my life. If I went down his house 1,000 times, he had the Atlanta Braves on. Remember, they were America's team. They were on TBS, the Superstation. We buried him in his hat, his Braves hat. He had the worst looking Atlanta Braves hat. He wore it every single day. Would not miss a Braves game. And it was unbelievable. Knew everything. They knew every player on the Braves because he adopted them because we don't have any pro teams.
How about you, Smitty?
I'm going outside of pro. I'm going my high school, Detroit Persian, and Michigan State. We about to play.
Homer.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
That's me.
That's what being a fan is all about.
Which team in New York is your favorite?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like every team in New York.
I'm
St.
just
John's,
saying,
John Law College.
I mean, with outside of everyone knows the alma mater. You know, that's not even fair.
Where'd you go?
University of North Carolina. But I mean, the alma mater, you know, knowing that most of us are going to have an affinity to that. Detroit Lions, I don't understand that. But I would say,
That's all right.
I would say my favorite team to watch would probably be the Yankees.
And the Mets.
And the
Said
Mets.
that earlier.
Look, and the Mets.
And the Mets.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite team, Steve?
My favorite
Shaq, go
team,
ahead.
I'm going to have to go with the alma mater, LSU. I'm going to win a national championship.
All right.
Nothing to talk about. I can give you the theme music if you like. Give me some drums, Reggie. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. You want some more of this, Charles Barkley?
That's enough.
Alabama.
Steve Kerr?
Same, Arizona Wildcats. I left the bar early last night so I could go watch Arizona play Duquesne. So
Yeah, I saw that
That's how much it means.
It was on at the bar. Anybody else?
Huge baseball fan, as you guys know. LA Angels of Anaheim, but I've known them as the California Angels.
I thought you were a big Ryan Braun buddy. I thought Milwaukee Brewers might be.
They're my National
Roca
League team.
Brewers.
They're no Detroit Tigers. But
They're my National League team, but overall.
All right. That was fascinating stuff.
All world.
That's Open Court on NBA TV.
Way to pick every team in New York, Ken.
Oh, my God.
Oh, nice.
Chuck Bryant.